Hello, Aries. If your heart feels uncertain tonight, if lately you've sensed something shifting inside you, something that makes you uneasy even though you can't explain why, stay here with me for a moment. Sometimes, before something extraordinary unfolds, the universe makes us feel lost, as if it's testing us to see if we're brave enough to release what's old and trusting enough to step into a new light. Tonight, I want to tell you a story not about fear, but about awakening. A whisper from far away, reminding you that every storm carries a sacred message, and that light only finds you when you're finally ready to face the shadows within yourself. There's a moment in life when you can't delay any longer. A moment when everything suddenly falls silent, as if the universe gently touches your shoulder and speaks in a calm, steady voice. It's time. Not to make you afraid, not to make you regret, but to wake you up. Aries, you've been walking this road of endurance for so long. You've carried, pushed, and held it all together so much that you barely notice how tired your soul has become. You call it responsibility, but deep down, it's exhaustion, the quiet kind that wears the heart thin. The real danger was never the storm outside, but the wind you've been silencing within. Sometimes, we don't realize how much we've shrunk ourselves just to fit into the old spaces. We smile so others won't worry, stay silent so others can rest, keep walking paths that no longer fit the shape of our hearts. But the universe sees everything, and in its own gentle way, it sends you these moments of enough, not to judge you but to lead you back to yourself. Have you noticed? When a door is about to close, the wind always grows stronger. Life is the same. Before it carries you into a new chapter, it will make you feel tight, uncertain, uncomfortable, as if you no longer belong in your own skin. But that's not failure. It's a sacred warning from growth itself. Take a breath and sit quietly for a while. Close your eyes. Listen to the sound of your own breathing. You'll realize that the deepest part of you has never fallen. It's only been tired from pretending to be fine for too long. That soul is still there, strong, wise, and waiting to live again in its full light. Don't question why everything stopped. Sometimes the pause is the rescue. Life halts you not to punish, but to protect, to remind you that you were never meant to just survive, but to bloom. And blooming is not about fighting. It's about releasing what no longer feeds your spirit. If there's one message I believe Aries needs to hear right now, it's this: you don't have to shrink to be loved. Real love doesn't ask you to bow or fake a smile. Real love lifts you so you can finally see how deserving of peace you've always been. Imagine this. Tomorrow morning, you wake up, and for the first time, you don't feel the need to prove anything. You just breathe, and you feel calm. That's when you'll understand why the universe said, it's time, because it knows you've already paid the price of pain. Now, what you need isn't another test, it's light. And that light has already begun to pour through the smallest cracks. You might not see it clearly yet, but it's there, gentle, patient, waiting for you to open. When you dare to face your own truth, the light will guide you. When you stop being afraid, you'll hear for the very first time the quiet call of freedom. The universe never knocks twice in the same way. This time, it's knocking softly, not on your door, but on your heart. A silence so deep that if you have the courage to listen, you'll understand it's already begun. There are nights when you wake in the silence, not knowing why your heart feels like an ocean full of unseen waves. No one has hurt you, nothing seems wrong. Yet your soul feels lost, as if waiting for something your mind can't name. That isn't instability, it's the first sign of a soul ready to grow. Before a person steps into a new chapter, their inner world often stirs first, like the sky before a storm, not angry, just preparing to cleanse itself. Aries, the restlessness you feel isn't failure. It's the stirring of light, finding its way in. Light always arrives softly, but before it makes you shine, it reveals every crack you once tried to hide. Sometimes, life feels like a room you've lived in too long. Everything's still the same, the old chair, the familiar picture, the steady ticking clock. And then one day, you realize the room has grown too small. Not because it changed, but because you did. Your soul has expanded. Your hunger for truth, freedom, and joy no longer fits within the same old walls. So don't fear the tightness. It isn't here to hurt you, but to tell you that a door is opening somewhere. You just need to be still enough to hear the wind slipping through its crack. It's faint, soft, like the universe's breath whispering, "It's time to move." Sometimes the signs come in the smallest ways, a conversation that lingers in your mind, an old song that plays right when you need it, a dream that repeats 3 nights in a row, or a single glance from someone that reminds you of who you used to be. The universe doesn't speak in human words. It speaks through coincidences, through repetition, through feelings you can't explain. And when you start to notice, you're already answering its call. You know, most of us fear change because we mistake it for loss. But change at its deepest level is an act of love. It's how life tells you that you deserve more than what you've settled for. That restless energy you feel, it's not a punishment. It's a reminder that your soul hasn't yet lived to its full measure. If you're tired, pause and breathe. If you feel lonely, place a hand over your heart and listen. It's still there, loyal, patient, waiting to be heard. In that rhythm lies every answer you've been searching for. You don't need anyone to point the way, because the light is already coming from within you. And sometimes, it's only when everything around you falls into an almost frightening silence that you can finally hear that voice clearly, the voice of the part of you that still believes, still waits, still remembers, that you were never born to endure but to shine. Maybe you're standing in that exact moment now between what was and what will be, between the familiar and the unknown. Everything feels hazy, except one fragile but certain feeling, the sense that something inside you is about to change. And that change, even if you can't see its shape yet, is the beginning of a gentle rebirth. When light is about to arrive, the darkness always deepens a little first. Don't be afraid. Let it pass, because only when you accept the night can you truly see the beauty of dawn. This unease you feel, it isn't the end. It's the opening scene of a new beginning. The world is shifting, energy is rearranging, and you, even if you don't yet realize it, are being guided closer to the brightest version of yourself. Everything is preparing for that meeting. And one morning soon, when you open your eyes and notice the air feels just a little different, you'll understand. You've heard the call. And from that moment on, the old you will begin to dissolve, making space for something deeper, stronger, and unstoppable, something being born from within you. When light wants to enter, darkness will push back. The clash between two forces, one ready to leave, the other ready to rise, always stirs a great wind inside the soul. You start noticing resistance everywhere. People around you seem harder to read. Old habits lose their comfort. What once felt familiar now makes your heart ache, whispering softly, "It's time to move on." Don't rush to blame anyone. It isn't really about them. They're mirrors, showing you the parts of yourself you're finally ready to see. Every judgment, every doubtful glance, every time you're misunderstood, all of it is life's quiet way of asking, are you strong enough to choose your own light? Life will keep sending you these tests, often disguised as people. The real lesson isn't in how you react, but whether you can stay peaceful in the storm. Awakening is never gentle. It's like a long winter, cold, lonely, but necessary for the soil to rest so that spring can bloom again. Aries, You're in that in-between season now where the old is breaking apart and the new hasn't yet taken form. Everything feels blurry, uncertain, confusing. But remember, even a seed must burst from within before it can grow. This is the stage where the universe tests your faith most deeply. When you start choosing differently, speaking your truth, living more honestly, some people won't like it. They'll miss the older version of you, the one who was agreeable, easy, soft. But true growth never pleases everyone. It asks you to leave behind what once felt safe, to release the people who once held you up. Yes, it hurts, but this is the labor pain of the soul. Let the resistance rise and fall like waves. Look into the eyes of those who don't understand you and smile quietly. I get it. I still love you, but I have to move on. When you can say that in your heart, energy shifts. Because forgiveness isn't approval, it's liberation. Forgive them, and also forgive yourself, the part of you that once feared losing the false peace you built. And then one day, you'll see, those collisions that once broke you actually made you shine brighter. They were polishing stones, sharpening your inner sword, making it gleam with strength and clarity. The light of the soul only radiates after it's been pressed against darkness. And you, Aries, are that flame. The stronger the wind, the higher you burn. When the last storm finally passes, in that quiet moment afterward, you'll understand something profound. You don't need to win against anyone. You only need to return to the truth of your own energy. The noise outside, the words that once pierced your heart, they fade away when you turn inward and touch the stillness your soul has carried since the beginning of time. In that stillness, there's a voice, soft but unmistakable, like the sound of wind slipping through leaves after rain. It doesn't belong to this world, yet it feels as familiar as your own breath. That voice whispers, "You've gone far enough in your battles out there. Now it's time to listen within." And when you finally do, everything around you begins to change color. The light softens. Time slows. And you realize you're not afraid anymore, because you've touched the most precious thing, the true voice of your soul. From that moment on, the story no longer revolves around struggle, but around harmony, where the heart finally understands that silence is not emptiness. It's the doorway into a new world. Sometimes we live our whole lives waiting for permission, a nod, a word, a sign that says we're allowed to be happy. But happiness was never meant to be handed to you. It's a gift you give yourself. The moment you have the courage to say, "I deserve it." Aries, you've been strong for far too long. You've learned to hide your exhaustion, to smile even when your heart quietly breaks. You've told yourself that if you did more, gave more, loved more, one day someone would finally see your worth. But maybe what life has been whispering all along is this: no one can give you what you haven't yet given yourself. There's a child inside you, still sitting in that small room of memory. It doesn't ask for much, just an embrace, a gentle look, a voice saying, "You're safe now." That child is waiting for the adult you've become to come back. Take its hand and say, "We're okay now. We can breathe. We can live. We can believe again." And when you finally do that, something beautiful happens. The world outside begins to shift. People seem softer. Doors you thought were closed quietly open. Not because of some distant miracle, but because the frequency of your heart has changed. When you learn to love yourself, you walk out into the world with a light that makes everything around you realign. Many think self-love is selfish, but in truth, it's the highest form of compassion. When you care for yourself, you stop trying to control or mold others. You love with freedom. You give from wholeness. And in that space, you become light, not because you shine, but because you've learned to embrace your own darkness. This world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more honest ones, souls brave enough to admit they've been afraid, lost, broken, yet still choose to stand and believe in kindness. They are the living proof that peace isn't a destination, it's a homecoming. You don't need permission to rest. You don't need to apologize for choosing yourself. And you don't need to prove that you're worthy. Just live softly like a small candle in the night, quiet, but bright enough for someone lost to find their way back. Maybe that's the most beautiful thing you can offer this world, to live fully in your own light. Not for praise, not for recognition, but because you know that the peace within you can become warmth for others in their longest nights. And when you sit in stillness, listening to your breath blend with the rhythm of the universe, you'll realize something profound. Life never takes away what truly belongs to you. It only waits for you to love yourself enough to receive it again. Then one morning, you'll wake, and your heart will feel lighter. Peace won't be a distant dream anymore. It will simply be here in the quiet where you sit, in the sunlight that touches your skin, in every cell whispering softly. You're home, sometimes. The good things don't arrive like fireworks. They come softly like the sound of rain falling at night. You only notice them when your heart suddenly feels lighter, when you wake up and no longer dread the morning, when the things that once weighed you down now seem strangely simple. That's how the universe sends its first miracle, not loud, not dazzling, but warm, like an invisible hand resting gently on your shoulder, whispering, "You've done well enough, Aries." How many times have you held on not because it was right, but because you were afraid to lose? How many times have you said, "I'm fine," while a quiet part of you longed just to rest, to breathe, to live without worry? And then one day, you stop forcing it. The current shifts. Money, the thing that used to steal your sleep, begins to flow easier, as natural as your next breath. Not because you're luckier than others, but because you've changed the frequency of your own being. When the mind stops panicking, your energy becomes clear. When you stop focusing on what's missing, the universe sends what helps you feel whole. Maybe it's a new job, a small project that arrives at the perfect time, or simply someone who shows up just when you need a hand. The flow of abundance begins to move again, but the true miracle isn't in the numbers, it's in the calm that returns to your heart. You start to see that wealth isn't about having more, it's about feeling enough. It's being able to buy your morning coffee without guilt. It's giving a small gift without hesitation. It's looking at life not with fear, but with gratitude. And from that place, magic expands. Every dollar you earn or spend carries peaceful energy because it's born from balance, not anxiety. Money, after all, is just the material language of energy. When you honor your own effort, when you work from the heart not to prove yourself, but to contribute, money finds you like a thank you note from the universe. It never truly ran from you. It was simply waiting for you to realize you were never lacking anything except faith in yourself. And with that flow of abundance comes something even greater: peace. You sleep deeper, laugh easier, and stop treating life like a race. You realize you don't need to win anymore because the real victory is no longer fighting yourself. The first miracle isn't a bag of gold. It's that quiet moment when you sit in your small room, close your eyes, and feel peace in your chest. From there, money, opportunity, and joy all begin to come effortlessly, not as things to chase, but as things to receive. You may be surprised to see the universe returning what you once lost, but in gentler, kinder ways. Old debts clear. Work you thought was ending opens new paths. Someone offers you a chance you never believed you deserved. Yet the real treasure isn't the result, it's the shift within you. You've stepped into a higher vibration, one of trust and surrender. From that place, everything begins to make sense. You understand that money is only a small part of true wealth. Real prosperity is living in a space where your heart can finally rest, where the voices in your head no longer whisper that you're not enough. When your mind is at peace, everything else falls into place. And then comes a moment. You look up and catch yourself smiling for no reason, no plan, no goal, just a quiet gratitude for being exactly where you're meant to be. That, right there, is how you know the first miracle has done its work, because once a person learns to be thankful for even the smallest thing, they become the open doorway through which greater blessings begin to enter. When a soul enters your life and you feel peace instead of passion, that quiet isn't emptiness. It's the deep knowing that you've come home. Not to a house of walls and rooftops, but to the home within your heart where you can finally be yourself, unedited, unguarded, no longer pretending to be strong. Aries, maybe you've loved before. Maybe you've been broken. You've built walls around your heart to feel safe. You once believed love would only come when you were better, prettier, wiser, more worthy. But the person coming into your life isn't here to test your worth. They're here to reflect it, to remind you of what was always there. This is someone who truly sees you, not your surface, but the parts you've hidden away. They look at your cracks and still smile softly, as if those fractures are what make you beautiful. With them, you don't have to try to be lovable. You simply are. This love doesn't make you dizzy or anxious. It heals slowly, patiently, like rain soaking into dry earth after a long drought. It teaches you that real love isn't the initial spark that burns fast, but the steady flame that stays warm through the years. They don't come to possess you, but to grow with you. They don't need to change you, they only wish to see you live fully as yourself. Strong, free, honest. When they smile, you'll see the reflection of your best self in their eyes. When they're silent, you'll feel the safety in that silence, the kind that lets you breathe, rest, stop fighting. And strangely, the moment you stop trying to love, love arrives. It doesn't begin with promises, but with presence. Just their being there softens everything in you. Old wounds begin to heal not through effort, but through trust. This love feels like a calm river, not loud, yet deep enough to mirror the entire sky. It teaches you that peace isn't the absence of storms. It's knowing you'll never have to swim alone again. You begin to understand that love isn't about finding someone, it's about returning to yourself through another soul. They come to remind you that real love never asks you to shrink. It invites you to expand, to open your heart, your mind, your vision of life itself. Because healthy love doesn't trap you inside a story. It lets you bloom inside every moment of being alive. Sometimes you'll realize this person isn't a lover in the traditional sense. They might be a friend, a kindred spirit, or even the new version of yourself, the one you've spent years gathering the courage to meet and embrace. Whatever form they take, their presence carries the same message. It's time to be loved gently. And then, on some quiet night, you'll place your hand over your heart, feel its steady rhythm, and understand love never left you. It was simply waiting for you to open. In that moment, a new space will appear inside you, wide, bright, and warm. Love is no longer the story of two people. It becomes the energy that nourishes your entire inner world. There comes a moment in life when you realize that what once broke you no longer frightens you. You look back at all the losses, the misunderstandings, the dreams that never came true, and instead of pain, you feel meaning. Because now you understand none of it came to punish you. It came to prepare you for something greater. Aries, you've walked roads no one saw. You've stood at crossroads with nothing to guide you but your own heart. And in those aimless steps, the fire within you was reforged, smaller, maybe, but steadier and deeper than ever. This is the moment your energy shifts. No longer the power to fight, but the power to create. Your creativity begins to rise no longer from fear of falling behind, but from the joy of giving, of serving. You want to act, to build, not to be praised, but because every heartbeat tells you that this is what you were born to do. People who match your frequency begin to appear gently, naturally, as if they'd been waiting for you all along. Gone are the connections that drained you. Now, there are souls who make you feel safe in your own skin. They don't come to teach new lessons, but to walk beside you in this next chapter. You may not notice it yet, but this is true rebirth, not the loud beginning of something new, but the quiet resurrection of a soul after a long winter. You live slower now, but deeper. You speak less, but with truth. You do less, but with wholeness. And in that simplicity, you touch the highest form of growth peace. Your intuition is no longer a whisper, it's a living map. Each time you follow it, life aligns in quiet harmony. Things begin to move smoothly, as if you no longer have to run, you just walk, and life carries you where you're meant to be. This is the third miracle, the moment a person finds their true purpose. Not a goal, not success, but meaning. Purpose isn't about what you do, but the energy you bring to everything you touch. When you pour love into your work, it becomes art. When you pour gratitude into your life, it becomes sacred. The world doesn't need more perfect souls. It needs people who are conscious, compassionate, radiant in their quiet light. You, Aries, are one of them. Your mission isn't to change the world, it's to make it gentler, simply by existing in it. So live each day as if your soul is writing its own story, a story of courage, of faith, of light. Trust that everything you do, no matter how small, sends out a wave of healing farther than you can see. And then, one ordinary morning, you'll notice something miraculous. You're no longer searching for happiness, because your very presence is happiness. You no longer pray to receive you, simply give thanks for the chance to be here, fully alive, in this moment. When purpose merges with peace, gratitude becomes a quiet prayer whispered through your every breath. It doesn't need to be spoken because it's already there, in the way you look at the world with kind eyes, and in the way your heart, at last, has learned to love everything, including yourself. Dear Aries, sometimes the greatest miracle isn't what you achieve. It's the quiet moment when you pause, smile, and realize you've made it through it all. You've been brave enough to let go, kind enough to forgive, and wise enough to choose peace over victory. Now, life is no longer a race, it's a gentle melody, unfolding one radiant note at a time. Let gratitude be your guide, light as breath, deep as faith. Thank you for being here, for sharing this small moment of light with me. May you always be surrounded by peace, love, and the eternal blessings of the universe today and in every lifetime to come.